What happens when a legend knows it's the last time? How does a champion say goodbye to the game that defined their entire life? What do the final rounds reveal about the soul beneath the glory? Arnold Palmer walked Augusta National for 50 consecutive years before his body finally surrendered. Ben Hogan vanished into silence after one mysterious afternoon at 75. Payne Stewart stood atop the world just 4 months before tragedy struck from the sky. These aren't stories about winning tournaments or hoisting trophies. These are stories about what comes after the cheering stops, about how we face the inevitable end. This is about the last round. April 9th, 2004, Augusta National Golf Club. Arnold Palmer stepped onto the first tee for his 50th consecutive Masters appearance, a record that will almost certainly never be matched. At 74 years old, his body could no longer compete at the highest level, but his heart demanded one final walk through the cathedral of golf he helped build into legend. The round took 5 hours and 20 minutes. Palmer shot 84 strokes, finishing dead last at plus 30 after 2 rounds. But nobody in the gallery cared about the numbers on his scorecard. Every fairway became a procession. Every green, a standing ovation. Palmer stopped at the ropes repeatedly to shake hands with old friends, wave to familiar faces, and flash that magnetic smile that had captivated millions for half a century. His 16-year-old grandson, Sam Saunders, carried his bag. For the first time in Palmer's entire career, his complete family attended a tournament together. They watched a man who changed golf forever take his final competitive steps across the Emerald Stage. Colonel Joe Curtis, who had attended Augusta for 49 years solely to watch Palmer play, captured the essence perfectly. He had this magical ability to make every person in a crowd of thousands feel like he was looking right at them. After signing his final scorecard, Palmer spoke with the honest directness that defined his character. "I'm done. I'm cooked. I'm washed up. I'm finished. Whatever you want to call it, it's time." But time wasn't quite finished with Arnold Palmer. 12 years later, in April 2016, Palmer returned to Augusta one final time. Too weak to swing a club, he sat in a chair at the first tee alongside Jack Nicklaus and Gary Player. When his 2 greatest rivals completed their ceremonial drives, Palmer struggled to stand without assistance, then raised his trademark thumbs-up gesture toward the roaring crowd. That morning, broadcaster Jim Nance conducted Palmer's final interview at Butler Cabin. Nance later recalled, "In that final interview at Butler Cabin, he looked me straight in the eye and said, 'This is it.' I believe he knew it was his last time at Augusta." Palmer departed that afternoon in a white Mercedes. Nance remembers the moment vividly. "I tapped on the car and said my final goodbye. 6 months later, he was gone." Arnold Palmer died on September 25th, 2016, at age 87. Lee Trevino's tribute revealed Palmer's true legacy. "Never saying no is why Arnold wore out sooner than he should have, but I don't think he'd change it. He chose his friends over trophies." That choice, prioritizing people over championships, connection over preservation, explains why Palmer remains the king, not for his 7 major titles, but for how he reigned in the hearts of millions who never forgot how he made them feel. Before Arnold Palmer, before Jack Nicklaus, before Tiger Woods, there was Bobby Jones, the gentleman who defined what it meant to be a champion. 1930. Jones accomplished what no golfer has matched, winning all 4 major championships in a single calendar year, the Grand Slam. He was 28 years old, standing at the absolute pinnacle of the sport. Then he walked away. He retired as an amateur, never accepting a dollar for playing golf. Instead, he co-founded Augusta National Golf Club and created the Masters Tournament, transforming a Georgia nursery into golf's most sacred ground. Jones believed golf was a game of honor, where you called penalties on yourself even when no one was watching. But fate had cruel plans. August 15th, 1948, Waucona Country Club, Massachusetts. Jones had just returned from Boston with devastating news. Doctors diagnosed him with syringomelia, a progressive disease that attacks the spinal cord. They told him he would gradually lose the ability to walk. The greatest golfer in the world would eventually become paralyzed. That humid summer afternoon, Jones decided to play one final round with close friends. The course had only 9 holes. Every swing brought searing pain shooting through his neck and legs. His once graceful motion, the swing that instructors studied and players tried to copy, had become labored, mechanical, agonizing. The 9th hole at Waukegan would be the last hole Bobby Jones ever played. Afterward, he wrote a letter to the club that revealed everything about his character. Jones penned, "This was my last attempt. I'm sorry it was not better." That apology wasn't about his score. It was the acknowledgement of a genius forced to surrender to an incurable disease, a titan humbled by something he couldn't defeat with practice or determination. The disease progressed exactly as predicted. Jones gradually lost control of his body, eventually becoming paralyzed from the neck down, but his mind remained sharp, his spirit unbroken. He continued attending the Masters in a wheelchair until 1968, greeting champions and offering wisdom with the same grace he'd shown as a player. On December 18th, 1971, Bobby Jones died in Atlanta at age 69. The entire golf world mourned. His most famous words became his life's testament. In golf, as in life, you must play the ball where it lies. Jones did exactly that. When life gave him an impossible lie, a devastating illness, a stolen future, unbearable suffering, he didn't complain or rage against the unfairness. He played it with dignity, teaching us that how we face our final challenges defines us far more than any victory ever could. Ben Hogan, known as the Hawk, was golf's most enigmatic figure. Cold, distant, obsessed with perfection, a man who spoke through his clubs rather than his words. On February 2nd, 1949, a Greyhound bus collided head-on with Hogan's car on a foggy Texas highway. Doctors said he would never walk again. His pelvis was shattered, his left ankle fractured, his collarbone broken, and blood clots threatened his life. 16 months later, Hogan won the U.S. Open in a playoff at Marion Golf Club, limping on legs wrapped in bandages. He would capture 6 more major championships on a body held together by willpower and aspirin. In 1953 alone, he achieved the Triple Crown, winning the Masters, the U.S. Open, and the British Open in a single season. Then, gradually, Hogan withdrew from the world. For years, he declined every invitation to play golf. The man who had conquered the game on broken legs wanted nothing to do with ceremonial rounds or nostalgic exhibitions. Until August 27, 1986. That afternoon, at Shady Oaks Country Club in Fort Worth, 3 young women from Texas Christian University arrived at the 10th tee for a casual 9 holes. Chris Shetter and her 2 teammates were shocked when Ben Hogan appeared, golf bag in hand, at age 75. Shetter remembers, "We stood there with our mouths open in shock. Here was the legend, holding a club." Hogan offered no explanation, no warm-up routine, no practice swings. He simply stepped to the tee and struck his opening drive, a duck hook that dove sharply into the oak trees left of the fairway. But what followed revealed the genius beneath the rust. Hogan navigated through the forest, then executed a delicate chip shot that stopped 1 foot from the hole. The touch, the feel, the instinct, it all remained. At the 17th hole, facing a severe downhill lie with a 5-wood in his hands, Hogan set up with surgical precision. Cheddar watched in amazement. The ball came off the club face like it was shot out of a gun. A perfect fade, straight at the flag. Dean Bayman, who once played alongside Hogan at the Masters, understood what made him special. It's hard to remember specifics because he always hit it perfectly. He hit every fairway, put it right where he wanted. After 9 holes, Hogan invited the young women to the grill room. They ordered Diet Dr. Pepper. He requested a martini and sat quietly, saying almost nothing. No grand farewell speech. No philosophical reflections, just silence. Then he stood, thanked them, and left. That was the last time Ben Hogan held a golf club. He died on July 25, 1997, at age 84 in Fort Worth. His funeral was private, attended only by close family, exactly as he would have wanted. Hogan had spent his entire life searching for the secret of the perfect swing in solitude. In the end, he shared one final afternoon, not with cameras or crowds, but with three young players who simply loved the game. That choice spoke louder than any words he never said. April 12, 2007, Augusta National, on Seve Ballesteros' 50th birthday. The Spanish maestro returned to the Masters for his final competitive appearance. Chronic back pain had ravaged the swing that once produced magic from impossible lies. The artist who could manufacture birdie from parking lots and forests now struggled with basic shots. Wearing his traditional navy blue sweater, the color he always chose for final rounds during his championship years, Seve posted scores of 86 and 80. He finished last in the field. But the numbers told nothing of the emotion coursing through Augusta that week. Walking up the 18th fairway for the final time, thousands of spectators rose as one in thunderous applause. His caddy, Scott Sejdinak, witnessed something unforgettable. When he made that final par putt at 18, the roar shook the grounds. The atmosphere was electric. After holing out, Seve pressed the golf ball into Sejdinak's hand, signed with the word amigo. The caddy recalls, "I had goosebumps and salty tears." 3 months later at Carnoustie, Seve announced his retirement through tears at a press conference during the British Open. Then came the battle nobody expected. On October 6, 2008, Seve collapsed at Madrid airport. Doctors discovered a brain tumor the size of 2 golf balls. 4 surgeries followed over the next months. In June 2009, Seve spoke publicly for the first time since his diagnosis. "It's a miracle to be alive. I thank everyone who has been involved in my care." But miracles have limits. On May 7, 2011, Seve Ballesteros died at his home in Pedrena, Spain. He was 54 years old. His spirit lived on. At the 2010 Ryder Cup in Wales, too ill to attend, Seve sent a video message to the European team. They won by a single point. Graham McDowell, who clinched the decisive victory, said, "Coming down the final hole, I was thinking about my teammates, about Monty, about the fans, and I was thinking about Seve. This win is definitely for him." Gary Player once described Seve's genius perfectly. He was a man who got into trouble. Only for Seve, there was no such thing as trouble. He could manufacture shots like a genius. When cancer attacked the very brain that created those impossible shots, Seve fought until his final breath, never surrendering, just as he never surrendered on any golf course. June 20th, 1999, Pinehurst No. 2, North Carolina. The U.S. Open came down to the 72nd hole. Payne Stewart, wearing his trademark knickers and Tam O'Shanter cap, faced a 15-foot stroke for par against Phil Mickelson, whose wife was days away from giving birth to their first child. Stewart rolled the ball perfectly into the cup. The championship was his. The famous statue at Pinehurst captures his celebration, right fist pumping, left leg kicking back in pure joy. But what happened next mattered more than any trophy. Stewart walked directly to Mickelson, placed both hands on his opponent's face, and spoke words that transcended competition. Mickelson recalls, "He looked me in the eye and said, 'You're going to love being a father.' That moment meant more than any trophy." Stewart had transformed. Once arrogant and difficult, he had discovered faith and family. He told reporters afterward, "I felt more at peace with myself. My strengthened religious belief helped me make that putt." 3 months later, at the Ryder Cup in Brookline, Massachusetts, Stewart demonstrated that transformation again. When Colin Montgomery endured brutal heckling from American fans, Stewart demanded security remove the hecklers. At the 18th hole, with the cup already decided, Stewart picked up Montgomery's ball and conceded the match. Montgomery never forgot the gesture. "At the 18th hole, Payne picked up my ball and conceded the putt. He apologized for how the crowd treated me. I'll never forget that." October 25th, 1999, just 4 months after Pinehurst, Stewart boarded a Learjet to fly to the Tour Championship in Houston. That morning, he had read John chapter 3, verse 8, about the wind blowing where it wishes. The aircraft lost cabin pressure shortly after takeoff. For 4 agonizing hours, the world watched on television as fighter jets escorted the ghost plane across America's heartland. Air Force pilots peered through windows and confirmed what everyone feared: no signs of life inside. The plane crashed in a South Dakota field. Everyone aboard perished instantly. At the Tour Championship, Stewart's close friend Stuart Appleby led a tribute. "We wore short pants that final day to honor Payne. Most of the field joined us. It was the least we could do." 4 months separated Stewart's greatest triumph from his most tragic end. But those 4 months revealed a complete transformation, proof that true greatness isn't measured by major championships, but by how you treat others when the world is watching. These stories reveal 3 profound truths. First, dignity in decline. Each man faced the end differently, yet shared common grace. Palmer returned despite knowing he'd finish last. Jones apologized for a performance no one judged. Ballesteros received ovations for terrible scores. They chose public vulnerability over private retreat. Second, character over conquest. Stewart's concession to a heckled opponent, Palmer's choice of connection over conservation of energy, Ballesteros' refusal to surrender to cancer, Hogan's gift of time to unknown youngsters. These actions defined them more than any championship ever could. Third, legacy lives through others. The grandson who carried Palmer's bag, the college players who witnessed Hogan's final swings, the wheelchair from which Jones inspired generations. They didn't simply exit, they lit torches for those who followed. Golf measures time in 18 holes, 4 rounds, and lifetimes of dedication. But these final rounds measured something deeper: the capacity to face mortality with grace, to treat others with kindness when nothing is gained, and to leave the game better than you found it. Arnold Palmer, Bobby Jones, Ben Hogan, Seve Ballesteros, Payne Stewart, they've all left the stage. But their final rounds still echo, reminding us that how we say goodbye reveals who we truly are. Greatness isn't about how many times you win. It's about how you play when you know it's the last time.